I'm ready to rock.
All right, let's get this done here. I gotta do one little thing while we're here.
Okay.
Give me a sec. Okay, there's that. And all right, we are officially on the air. See, Twitch,
Nice.
Twitch and YouTube here, they're like big brother, little brother kind of things. It's like they don't like each other, and they occasionally want to fight and punch each other in the face. So gotta make sure they don't I break them up and put them in their separate corners. I've already amused you, and I haven't even started this conversation yet. So yeah, if you listen to the show, like this is me. Like this, I don't pretend to be anything other than myself. I'm honest with who I am, and I try to have a good time. And even if we do end up disagreeing about how life, the universe, and everything works, that is just no. I don't take it personally. That I don't. I'm too old for that bullshit. All right.
Yeah, that makes two of us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I mean, we have a tendency to I almost want to do a back in my day thing because I'm old enough to actually start being able to do that. The clouds occasionally talk to me too now. It's okay. I have made peace with my insanity, but you're like, bravo. I applaud. I approve. I applaud. But we have a tendency today, if someone doesn't agree with our worldview, that we're nuts, and I disagree with that. I'm more of a like, look, I think certain ways about certain things. You don't have to agree with me. We can still have a beer at the end of the day. It's like it's not a huge big deal to me. I'm just telling you how I think the world works, and you know what? I'm probably wrong about at least some of it because I'm too old to look at it and go, hey, I have all the answers. I don't. I'm living in a room in my friend's house right now, trying to make ends meet. So I certainly don't have all the answers, but I'm trying to figure it out, and that's it, and that's life, right? So, how you today?
Excellent. I'm great, actually. Thank you.
Yeah, I've already I've already made you laugh at least twice, or really try not to laugh. So I think I've done something right. So I think we'll see.
Yeah, laughing is everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the worst thing you can do in this life is take yourself seriously, because I guarantee you, life doesn't take you seriously. It really doesn't. You're
Mhm.
here until you're gone.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
So while you're here, you might as well have fun. So I have 12 rules to success. The 10th rule is, when in doubt, pick the path that's the most fun.
Why not? Why
Exactly.
not? Why not? I say, you know what? I like that one. I might jot that down.
Would you like to hear all 12?
Yeah, if you have
Okay.
time.
Sure. We got time. This is a conversation. We're gonna go. So rule one: show up. Seems so dumb. I every time I say it, it's like the dumbest in my head. This is the dumbest thing ever. Like every time, but so true. Show up. Most people don't. Do your shit. Right? Something tells me you're okay with the non-PG version of these rules, so I'm going to give you the non-PG version.
I grew up in New York, so bring it on.
Okay, yeah, okay, cool. My dad's from Detroit, so we both have a little bit of a salt to the earth quality there. Rule three is the cliche: don't quit. Right, right.
Yes, of course.
I amend that. I amend that slightly. And here's my recent amendation: don't quit when it's hard. Quit when it sucks. There's a
Fair.
difference. There is a difference.
That's
Right.
fair. That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. Like when it sucks, if you feel like it sucks and you don't want to do it no more, you don't have to. Like there's no rule that says you must. Now, make sure it's because it sucks and not because it's hard. Right?
Amen.
Yeah. Right. Rule four: the rest is rain. This one's a bit of a paradox. So you can prepare for the rain to fall all you want, but the rain may not even fall in your direction when the time comes. Success is very much like this. You can do everything you know how to do, and you can still fail. Consequently, if you don't do those steps at all, you have zero chance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
Life, right? But life isn't fair. The benefit to that, though, is that also means that every day is a possibility to get actually not just what we deserve, but better than what we deserve. That possibility is out there just as much. That's the whole thing. The rest is rain. You don't know which way it's going to fall. All you can do is prepare as best you can. So that's rule four.
can I follow up to the life isn't fair thing? My father on his tombstone, it says, life is not fair, but you can be.
Yes. I I I I try hmm. I mostly agree with that. I would say there's a little tiny here's the tiny caveat. And this is the thing. I'm fair. I, I keep my qualities for fairness very short. Right?
Mm.
Right. I
Hmm.
keep them very short because um are you honest? Do you have integrity? Are you compassionate? And and are you transparent?
Hmm.
That's it. They're the only things I know for sure that are good. Everything else, I'm not so sure. So I
Okay,
just say yeah. So that's the only thing
fair.
about that. Those are the four things I look for in everything from people to political leaders. I'm very
Interesting.
disappointed. Well, I'm very disappointed in the latter, but I think honestly, like I think like looking at the current political landscape of any country, really, I think by and large we're in an abusive relationship, and that's how I would describe it. Because I look at how politicians treat people, and if I'm being very honest, I wouldn't buy a car from any of them. But I mean, but but I realize that part of the problem I think is us, and what I mean by that is we let these guys do this stuff. Like we don't actually we don't actually I will see people bitch about a policy here or a policy there. Like, okay, in Canada right now, I cannot share news on Facebook. That is a government decision. Yes, it's as fucked up as it sounds, right? Right? That is a government decision. Now, am I now? I a lot of people are upset about it, but what are we doing about it? And the answer is nothing. And that is more a sign. So the problem isn't just the government officials that made this law. The fault is in ourselves for letting it happen, right? And
Yeah.
and if you look at everything going on right now, there is a yes. Some people are definitely more responsible than others, but at the end of the day, we are choosing to live in this world. We are not choosing to change it. Right? And I think in large part, I think we've just gotten used to the abuse from the people in charge. And that's not a good thing.
Mm-mm.
Do you think I'm on something, or do you think I'm on to something?
Yeah, I think a lot of work needs to be done. And I'm not sure how it occurs. I do believe it lands somewhere in the collective.
Yes.
And I believe that somehow the collective, the integrity of the collective, the wants and needs of the collective, the purpose and mission of the collective somehow has to reach the people in charge and the people with power. Now, how that occurs, I don't know, but I believe that is what has to happen.
Well, I mean, my own theory on that, just and then we'll move on, is it's the fact that there's too much separation between people in power and people that don't.
Mhm. Right.
I mean,
The collective.
if the people in power worked our jobs, ate what we ate, I guarantee you conditions would be better. Right? I
Yeah.
guarantee it. It doesn't care. I don't care what party it is.
Mhm.
Right? It's that
Agreed.
separation. It's that separation that has
Yeah.
created these problems. So you have to force them in a room with us together again. That's how you fix it.
Yeah.
But how do we get to that point? Are we at the point where we're ready to do that? Because the honest truth is, right? It doesn't matter what party you believe in as far I'm at. I think what it comes down to is we have to be very honest about the relationship these people have with us. And if it was an actual like relationship, if it was a relationship of a boyfriend girlfriend kind of variety, it would be an abusive one,
Mm.
right? It would be. There would be no like the power balance is way off whack.
True.
Right? It's to the point that again they're not on. There's no honesty. There is no transparency. There is no compassion. There is no integrity. So, I mean, this is not a this like if this was a relationship like we would tell our friends or family that are in those relationships to get the fuck out, right? So I mean that's where we're at. Like that's my whole thing. I don't get caught up in the Trump Biden stuff because honestly it's like it doesn't really matter. They're both bad, right? Right? It really doesn't, right? You have two old guttering grandpas that probably should be, playing golf instead of actually. You're laughing a little bit at the way I described that, but they should be playing golf or spending time with their families instead of doing what they're doing. I mean, and it's both of them. It's not just one; it's both. And it's like you look at that and you go, I gotta choose between this. Fuck. Right. So, but again, if I think about it from a relationship standpoint, I think it's like if there was a time for somebody to run, it's this election. Because if somebody else ran, I think everybody would go there in a landslide.
Yeah, you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You never know what the universe has in store.
Yeah.
And, you know, I just really try to remain, for my own sake, on a high vibration of hope
Oh
and
no.
optimism. And that's where I try to stay. And that's where I write from. That's where I
Yeah.
write my books. Yeah.
So I am too. I do believe no matter which way it goes, it will eventually get better. But
Yes.
the path we get to getting there could be a touch easier. That's all I'm saying. All right.
It,
All right. Rule 5. Get out of your own way. Get out of your fucking way.
hmm
Most people like I realized this. So this podcast won an award way near the beginning of its show, and it's been nominated a few times for that same award since. What I realized when I did it is I had this real. That was the first time I dealt with imposter syndrome. It's like, hey, this good thing comes my way, and then but I had a really interesting thing. I realized that fear of failure, and fear of success are the same fear. They're fear of change. The only difference is what part of change are they afraid of. Fear of failure is fear that nothing you do is going to change anything. Fear of success is everything you do has changed everything. Now where am I going from here? Right? Because now you have an expectation you didn't have before with success. So success is a bit scarier than failure, right? It's scarier, I think, in the long run, but I also think it's a necessary part of growth. So if you want success, look at yourself honestly. How'd you get here? What do you do so well that got you to this place, and how can you get better? Because it never stops, right?
True.
Well, get out of your fucking way. Rule 6. Be grateful, be charitable.
Yes, I fully embrace that. Yes.
Right? Let's see. Rule 7. Rule 7 has slipped my mind. Hold on a second here. Let me think about that one for a second. I'll give you rule 8. Stay uncomfortable.
Mm.
We don't live rule 7 will come back to me. I'm sure of it. Oh, rule 7 simple. No excuses. It's incredibly simple. It doesn't matter why you did or you didn't. You did or you didn't. That's it. That's all there is to it at the end of the day. You did or you didn't. So, don't say I didn't do it, but just say I didn't do it. Like honestly, save everybody time. I just save everybody. No one cares. I'm gonna tell you this straight up. I remember this when I was working at a warehouse. And in this warehouse, they wait as long as you call an hour before. I stopped giving reasons like 2 years into it because my boss didn't care, and I realized that he just didn't care. It's like, do I have to give you a reason? He goes, no, I don't care. And I'm like, cool. I'm not going to give you one from here on in, and I'm just not going to do it. I'm just going to tell you, right? It's just so much easier. It's just so much easier for everybody involved because no one cares why you did it or why you didn't. No one cares what you did, what you didn't do, right? Sure. Like no one cares. You got to own up to what you did and didn't do at the end of the day. So no excuses. You did it or you didn't. Fair. That's it, right? That's the rule 8. Stay uncomfortable. Life is change, and the only way to evolve is to constantly change. So there is that aspect of it. So life is change. Rule 9. Detach from all outcomes.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, it's the pandemic taught me that one, because the big thing about again, this a little bit goes back to the abusive relationship we have with the government, but also to some degree, it's people were so convinced that doing certain things would save us, and if you really read those things, that didn't really work the way people thought it would. So the truth of the matter is, now people are still caught up in this idea that this stuff works, and I would be like, well, that's not what everything else is saying, but that's not really the debate. The debate is people got let their fears, people let their fears and their ideas of what the world would be if we didn't follow through on things
Mhm.
dictate how we treated other people. And I realized that our ideas are our path in life, but they're also our prison if we let them be. So if
Hmm.
you're able to detach from the ideas we have, like the emotional connection to them, which is why I refuse to say my truth. I'm just going to say my opinion, because if I say it's my truth, if you criticize my ideas, you're criticizing me. If it's my opinion, you're criticizing my opinion. You're not criticizing me, right? And that's a very different line of thinking. So the reason I do that is I want my ideas to be detached enough that you can disagree with them, and I'm not throwing a hissy fit,
Fair.
right? And then rule 10, have fun. When in doubt, have fun. Right? So that. So we've gotten to 10. What are the last two? I think that's actually good enough for right now. But yeah, those are my rules. What do you think?
I like them. I
Mm-hmm.
like them. I especially like the detach from outcome.
Mm-hmm.
When I started writing, I only started writing in really April of 2022,
Cool.
and I had no outcome attached. And I believe that is what assisted me in writing 27 books in 14 days.
Oh Jesus.
And then I wrote another set, well, I completed 31 within the next week. So if I had set some sort of uh, outcome to attach to that, I
Mm-hmm.
don't believe that would have ever occurred. I wouldn't have had the freedom. I wouldn't have had the connection in my own self and the flow to write like that. So
Yeah.
I believe that's really, so one of those rules really goes to the heart of what I believe for creatives and people that want to create, if at all possible, to detach from the outcome and see what rises up from the true self and work from that space instead of
Yes.
headspace, where headspace wants predictability, headspace wants guarantees, headspace wants outcomes, but true self is different, and it doesn't you don't create from headspace, you create from true self. That's always my advice.
Life is actually more about true self than headspace. It doesn't mean headspace doesn't help you. Like I like having a plan. I do like
You
having
have to,
one.
yeah, you have
Right,
to have
right,
one.
right,
Yep.
right. I like having a plan because if you have a plan, you can actually do stuff, right? It's afterwards, right? It's after it's you got to realize like in the process of doing, right? Like life's great until you get punched in the mouth. The old saying is, you know what? Life's gonna throw you curveballs. So what do you do with in those moments? That's all. That the headspace goes out the window.
Yeah.
You at that point you gotta figure it out, or you just stop and you never get anywhere because what ends up happening is, oh my god, it didn't go according to plan, and it has to be perfect. It's like, yeah, no, I'm too old for. I think perfection is the biggest bane in life, because I realize what perfection actually is. It is the end of change. It's
Hmm.
anathema. It's if you're perfect, if you hit a point of perfection, we all hit it when we die, because we can no longer evolve on this world. We can't.
Hmm.
We're dead. So
Yep.
that's our perfect moment. We hit that point. That's who we are. That is who we are. Everything else up until that point is how we grew to get there, how we
Hmm.
changed to get there. So
Interesting.
yeah, that's my take. Like life is change. We all get to grow. We all get to do things. We all evolve accordingly, and
Hmm.
we do that by changing. I'm not the same guy I was a couple years ago. I'm not the same guy I was 10 years ago for sure. Right? I was happier in some ways 10 years ago. I was not so happy in other ways. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
and now it's like now I'm just at the point now it's like, okay, I'm doing what I love. Now pay me. That's where
Ah,
I'm at right now. That's where I'm at now. And then once I get that, I'll completely go down my journey to become the supervillain I've always wanted to be.
what kind of super villain do you want to be? Out of curiosity.
Like as obnoxious, not quite as obnoxious as Doctor Doom. I won't talk to him in the third person, but I will get to the point where I'll have a giant ass red cape and I'll have to hire somebody to carry it. Right?
Yeah, the third person thing. Can we avoid that? That would be great.
Again, I shall endeavor to do my best on that, right? But like I shall endeavor to do my best because what I realize is it's not about it's about what you like looking in the mirror, and I say like villains in literature actually, if you look at their positive qualities, often have amazing positive qualities. That I mean, yes, I mean blowing up the world might be a little bit extreme, and some of the other things they do to get there might be a little over the top. But the courage and ambition to follow through on a vision is something that can be very admired, right? Because I'm telling you this right now, the villain had to pay bills too on his way to becoming the villain we all know and love, right? So he had to deal with the asshole banker and the asshole landlord and the asshole whatever, like the insurance companies. He had to deal with all that stuff, that adult stuff that people don't think about. And you know what? It might have even made him more down the path of supervillainy. And if you put it in that perspective, you suddenly understand him even more. No wonder he got sick of this stuff. He just said, I'm going to change it. Now, I'm not sure I want to change it the way he wants to change it, because I'm not sure we all should be serving him and empowering him. But I get his idea that maybe we need to change things for the better. I get that. And that's something you can admire in any villain, right? Hey, they have the courage and ambition to go for it. And that's something that I think that's great. Now, again, what are you going for? What ambitions are you going for? That's another question, right? But that's the other thing about a good villain. Good villains think they're right, right?
It's true.
Yeah, they think they're right. And they usually have a point. Like, honestly, the really good ones have, like, Magneto's my favorite, like, Marvel villain of all time. Like, right? He's my favorite. But the reason why he's my favorite is you can empathize with him because of everything he's been through, right? He was a Holocaust, like initially he was a Holocaust survivor. He was right. He was a Holocaust survivor, so he was a Jew that got like he survived that. He has seen the very worst aspects of human nature when it comes to regarding things as different. So he understands in a way that Xavier doesn't, that human nature is often its own worst enemy, right? What he doesn't account for in himself is he thinks mutants should rule, right? Which, okay, that's a bit nuts. But the thing is, what he forgets is at the end of the day that how human he too really is. And that's what makes him so, I mean, he can be a douchebag. He can be a bit of a coward. I like his relationship with, he gets annoyed at Wolverine because Wolverine calls him out on his bullshit better than anybody else. That's the thing. Wolverine can't beat him, but he calls him out on his bullshit every single time. And that's a wonderful thing to have somebody that's why Magneto can't stand Wolverine. Wolverine is his honest foil filter. It's like, you're full of crap. And this is why you're full of crap. And so Wolverine's a good reminder that no matter what Magneto's doing, Magneto is always the villain. But what makes Magneto compelling is he's a little right. Because he's seen the worst in humanity. He grew up around the worst of humanity. In one sense, the admirable thing about Magneto is he's still somewhat of an idealist, in spite of everything he's been through, right? The flip side is, at heart, though, and this is what makes him a villain, he's a bit of a coward. He doesn't have the heart to go through with his convictions, and he's somewhat, on some levels, he betrays them. Right? All right. So that's my take on him.
Right. I wasn't familiar, but that is interesting for sure.
Yeah, he's my favorite villain. Right? Consequently, I hate Lex Luthor as a villain.
Why so against Lex?
Because way back in the day, they showed that when Superman wasn't around, Lex had heroic qualities, and in more modern tellings of Lex Luthor, they've moved away from that. Right? Lex Luthor's problem is he can't compete with Superman. Right? That's the thing, and really, no one can. Like there's one thing. The only reason you don't hate Superman is because Superman didn't ask to be this. right?
Right. Yeah. He just came in the egg.
Yeah, yeah,
He
yeah.
didn't plan
He's
it,
just who he is. He's
hmm
just who he is, and he can't help it. But so you got someone who's built himself from the ground up, someone who's done all these amazing things to become who he is. Just cannot stand to be around this alien who's just better than him in every way. It would drive you nuts, right? It would drive
Yeah.
you nuts.
Yeah.
Right.
It'd
So
be a lot.
I understand the um you know um frustration. But the thing is, so if you make him irredeemable at that point, well, now he's not a good person that just can't compete. He's just a douchebag. I don't
Hmm.
want to, right, all right, right. That's the thing, right? I like it when my villains have good qualities to them, because it's much easier to have a good, again, you want human characters. Your good guys have to be, I mean, they can be unrepentant assholes. I just sent a novel off for traditional publishing. The villain I advertise in the novel is an unrepentant, like he's a salesman. Like he's like a
Hmm.
used car salesman, like a bit of preacher rubbed in, and you want to punch him in the face. I designed him that you wanted to punch him in the face, right? But it's also
Hmm.
because, without giving too much away, he's not the big villain of the story. The big villain of the story is somebody a lot of people respect and admire.
Interesting.
Yeah, right, right. But that's because the guy that admired made a mistake, right?
So what led you to write the novel? I'm curious.
Um, yeah, 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 yeah. I decided to I like the idea. I'm fascinated by what is good. That's the intellectual question behind it. Like, what is good?
Hmm.
Because if you sit there and think about it, the word nice, the word good doesn't mean anything by itself. So what makes a good person a good person? Is it the beliefs they follow? Is it the ideals they profess to? Or is it their actions? And how would somebody that was unrepentantly a terrible human being once upon a time become a better person? How would that was the whole idea. And then it was like, okay, how would I tell this story? And I came up with this idea of a alternative universe Night Witch. I don't know if you know who Night Witches are. On the right,
No.
Night Witch was a World War II Russian fighter unit of all women, and they were the most successful unit in the war. They actually, so yeah, they're legit badasses. They had these wooden planes. That's what they had to fight the Germans. These wooden planes. So during the day, that they were fucking worthless, because you could see them coming a mile away. But at night, you couldn't see them. They were more maneuverable than the average plane. They were slower, but they were more maneuverable. And all you could do was hear them coming. So at night, these women would load up their bomb bays, which again, these are these incredibly crappy wooden nets. They're crap, like they're hot garbage. They would load up these planes and they would go bomb. They would bomb the Germans every fucking night for like 4 years. They terrified them in Russia. They were Russia's, far and away, they were Russia's most successful unit. Yeah,
I had no idea.
yeah.
I want to research this.
Yeah. You're gonna look at them. You're like, these women were badasses, and they were they were undeniably badass, right? So they had these. So I like, okay. So I had this. That's one. That's the protagonist. Someone that's to become a Night Witch in this fictional world. So it's not wooden planes, right? Right. In some worlds it's dinosaurs. In other worlds it's other things. Right. It's a different environment, and the villains are evil versions of the Knights of the Round.
Oh,
I turned them all evil, except for like
how
one
many?
or two.
How many are there? How many? How
12.
many nights? There are
The
12.
big,
Okay.
the big 12 are all evil.
Okay.
The organization completely in itself is now corrupt as a result.
Now, do you take any? Do you create your own Knights of the Round Table, or are you?
I'm using the classic one, but I'm just
You're using the
reimagining it.
classic. Okay.
Like, for
Okay.
example,
Okay. Cool.
like Lancelot's the one not Lancelot. Percival was the first one knight in the story. I made him an evil genie.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But okay, so that's the head space, the heart space.
Okay.
The
Yeah,
heart
what's the
space.
heart space? Yeah.
Fear of finding love again. Like right? That's the heart space. Because my main character meet like her contact, like she meets another gal and another night witch, kind of sort of like a contact in there. Things happen. And in the process, it's like this is a really good thing happened to me, and I'm afraid I'm going to fuck this up. Because love's a terrifying thing, especially as you get a little older. You realize, like, I'm 42. I'm still at a really good age to meet somebody. I'm still at a really, especially today, like next 20 years, the odds of me meeting somebody are really good. Like I'm coming into my prime, blah, 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 all that stuff. But there's another part of me, it's like, okay, I'm 42. I'm doing this a little later than, like, again, it's becoming more normal, but it's still not normal to wait this long. So will I find somebody? Will I fall in love? Will I do all those things? So that's the heart space in the story.
Nice.
Right.
Nice.
And that's an honest, like, I don't apologize for, like, I'm honest, right?
Yeah, of
And
course.
that's who I am. Yes. And AF Stewart, yeah, her motto: make a plan, expect the plan to fall apart. She's watching our conversation as we're going here. Yeah. So yeah, it does. Like that, totally, Anita. That's Anita. No, I say it like that.
I like it.
Yeah, it's true. Because if you're not attached to the plan, you can change the plan. Again, our biggest mistakes as human beings is when we hold on to this idea and don't let it go when it's clear that it doesn't work.
It's true. It's true.
Right?
We gotta, yeah, it's better to abandon ship earlier on, I feel. Like I'm not going down with the Titanic. I'm just not.
But the thing is, I understand why people do. And this is the thing. Like, this is what goes something I said. My truth versus my opinion. If it's my truth, you're gonna hold on to it even when it's sinking. And it's gonna break you. Right? It's gonna break you. If it's my opinion, well, I that's easier to let go. Right? I might still fight for it initially, but if I'm shown irredeemably that I'm wrong, it's an opinion. I can change my opinion. Right. It's much harder. It's much harder for people. Again, the pandemic taught me this. Our ideas of how we see the world are how we shape our world. So consequently, it can free us, or it can make us better.
That's really what I try to do with my nursery rhymes.
Yeah.
That's why I write nursery rhymes. That's why I wrote 31 of them, a book a day for a child. And they span anywhere from, being encouraged to play with blocks and taking something with wheels outside, from all the way to the book, The Lost Total, which is about grief and endings. So literature, if we support children the brains are developing, the cognitive learning is developing, if we can give them literature that supports them as a layer of support with encouragement and messages of resiliency and coping and looking to nature as a layer of support, they can grow up with different voices in their head than I grew up with. That's what I try to do, so that when they grow up, they have a fighting chance and they believe that. I have a book called The Line Sky. It's instead of Skyline. And it's anything can happen on the line sky. So it's all about teaching it to a child in literature when they're young, because that gives them a view of the world that's going to carry them forward.
Oh, there's definitely some truth in that. Like, what I mean, one of the things you have to learn when you get older, right, is your parents didn't have it all right either, and that's probably that's a hard thing, because it requires a certain degree of how do I put this, honesty. It's like, hey, your parents are human too, right? It shapes us more than I think people realize, right? And
Absolutely.
and it's one of those moments where we gotta it's gotta be one of those things where you have to be very honest And I'm trying to find the last two rules here. Hold on a second here, because I didn't put them in here. Actually, I have, yeah, all right. Right. Last two. The last two I have, right? You wait for no one,
Oh yeah, absolutely. No one's
right?
coming. No
Yeah.
one's coming. Yeah. Yeah,
You
no
can't
one's
do,
coming.
right? You
Mm-mm.
can't do everything, but you must be willing to do anything,
Mm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. Those are the other two, and then the 13th rule, which is something it's another cliche. You must let go of who you are for who you want to become.
Mm. True.
Yeah, and
True.
that right. Which going to your like the last rule here was going to what your nursery rhymes are about, right? You want to like a lot of us don't have necessarily a good foundation of who we are, and that's partially because again I think of again how the system's played out today. Now we discover those things in life regardless, I think one way or the other, but the question is how, right? The environment created the environment we live in, right? The environment we live in is determines like a lot of how we develop. Now again, that doesn't mean you come from a really bad place you're going to be a bad person, or that you don't have a chance, but the things you have to overcome are very different. um and the more it's true with knowledge too, the more ability you have to think for yourself and be independent and put things together, the better chances you have of going down any path you want. Like you don't the less reliant you are on the system, the more you can use it. Ironically, the more reliant you are on the system, the less you can do with it.
I would say it takes a lot of discernment.
Yeah,
And how do you become a discerning person? How do you access discernment?
yeah,
And I believe those skills are learned in early childhood.
yeah,
And what you want is to equip a child with as many skills of discernment and clarity as possible so that when all these experiences occur, which they will occur to one extreme or another, whether the loss is the loss of a grandparent or the loss of a t-ball game, they will come across loss. They
yeah,
will come across endings, whether it's the end of a of Christmas vacation or the end of living in a certain geographic place, right? So I try to take all these experiences and give it a little rhyme and a little story. And then because of the rhyme, they can remember it and call upon it when they need it. That's what I try to do.
so I ask a couple questions here. It sounds like your heart space is, if I would be so bold, it'd be like, what would happen if you could travel back in time and meet yourself?
Oh, golly. See, what's so fabulous about my journey is every experience, every journey I have had has led to a poem that's either for contemporary poetry or to a nursery rhyme. And it's still occurring. I'm still writing all the time. So the beauty of going back is now seeing that those experiences, for better or for worse, have become a tool for a caregiver. They've become a story that rhymes, that doesn't only help the child, but helps whoever is reading to the child.
Mm-hmm.
So I look back at a really, really complicated life that I've had for 55 years, and I have gratitude because I was able to take these really hard things and turn them into something beautiful that is meant to help children in their formative years. What better gift is there than that? What better mission is there than that? I am lucky.
Mm. That there's definitely some aspects. I mean, it's what life is, what you make of it. Like honestly, life is what you make of it. You can be in any situation, and it depending on how you see it, depending on how it works out, You can use it to keep you in your position of where you're at, or you can use it to move forward.
Yes.
And one of the big things you have to learn in your life too, and this is something that comes later in life, is are you repeating the same mistakes over and over and over and over again? And if so, if you want to change, you got to stop making these mistakes. And I think to some degree I think as you get older, it gets harder to stop repeating yourself. And you got to under because you're so used to doing things a certain way forever and ever and ever, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's one of
Sometimes
those. Oh yeah,
you got to
and
shake
some,
it up. Got to
well,
shake it up.
sometimes, but I mean, also there comes a point too, and I think we all get to this point. I like it this way. You'll say it to yourself. I like this. Now, whether it's good or bad for you, that's not always the definition there. But I think it's just a human thing. Like, you know what? I've gone on as far as this journey as I'm going to, and I'm good with it, and that's fine too. I think at least somewhat. I think that there is a certain comfort in skin, right? There's a certain
Mhm.
comfort in one's skin that one gets as one gets older. This is who I
Mhm.
am, and that's good,
Mhm.
and that's overall a good thing. But do keep them. Again, it's one of those things. It's like, do keep in mind, like that doesn't mean you still aren't screwing things up. In fact, I think as you get older, I enjoy screwing. Again, going back to maybe my super villainy aspect of things, I enjoy screwing things up more, a little bit more as I get older, because I realize that it doesn't have to be like I'm like that little kid that just made a mess for the sheer purpose of making a mess. Right? It was
Mm.
just fun to do it. Right? Watching grown adults. I'm gonna like if I do have kids, this is gonna be my curse. This is gonna be my curse. Watching kids mess something up just for the sake to see what happens. Right. I think as an adult, it's like, you know, there's something to this. I think there's a good lesson for everybody here, and also as you get older, like, well, again, as I get older, I'm becoming in an odd way more bulletproof, because there's not much in this life that scares you anymore as you get older, because you're like, oh, I'm not going to be here forever anyway. So I mean, you can threaten me with anything you want. Shrug, you know. I mean, it's just like there's a certain point in it, you're just like, my God, right? This is why I'm gonna have the obnoxious red cape, like when I get down that road, right? This is why, right? Because you realize just what can happen. I think with kids, I think the big thing with kids, and this is something is you try to keep their joy as long as possible,
Yes. Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes. Entertainment, the entertainment value of literature for children is is my first that's my first goal, is entertain them,
Yeah.
right? If I don't entertain them, why are they going to want to learn to read?
Yes.
Right. So entertainment value is gigantic, and letting them be children and letting them have childish joy. And what I do is I have a very vibrant inner child, and I feel like what you were just saying indicates that you do as well.
Oh yeah.
And when you have a very vibrant inner child and you want to create literature for children or whatever you want to create, like when you talk about the red cape, right? That says to me vibrant inner child, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you write about something like that, and you're going to connect with other people that have that same inner
Oh,
child
absolutely.
vibrancy, right? So when
Yeah.
I write for children. I don't write from the 55-year-old brain. I write from the inner child, but I take the experiences that the brain has been through and I marry the two together and
Mm-hmm.
create a nursery rhyme.
So I got a personal question for you here. You got
Okay.
kids?
I have a son. I have a beautiful, beautiful son. He's 26.
Mm-hmm.
He's a 26-year-old man. He's a man. And yeah, and I have a dog.
Yes.
I have Teddy Roosevelt. And
Okay.
God bless Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt has books because Teddy Roosevelt has taught me a lot. My
Teddy
dog has
Roosevelt.
taught me a Teddy Roosevelt
Oh, that's the
Theodore.
dog. The dog. Okay.
Yeah, that's the
Okay.
dog.
Okay. I'm like, okay.
The dog
President? She's talking about the president or her dog? Okay.
well, the president created the national park system, so there's that.
Yeah.
but anyway, yeah. So to Teddy Roosevelt and my son, when I wrote, I have 4 series, and one of my series is called The Classics.
Yeah.
All of the classics are dedicated to my son, to Ryan Michael, because he's just such a beautiful, beautiful soul.
Yeah.
And because he's been through some life journeys that have been very difficult. And he has shown me courage, strength, resilience, bravery. And that's part of what I infuse into the nursery rhymes. You see?
Huh. So your son's the inspiration for, or at least that version of the son was the inspiration for some of them, because
Yes.
it's interesting. Like I said, because I look at kids literature. There's lots of levels to it.
Mm-hmm.
My all-time favorites. One of my all-time favorites is Dr. Seuss.
Aha, yes, of course. He's
Right.
a rhymer. Yes, he's a
That, that
rhymer.
that that's part of it. But he's also a comic book creator. Right? Like a lot of people don't. If you took a lot of what's not all of Seuss's stories, but a lot of them, right? Take Fox and Socks for example, right? And you put a thought bubble, like how the comic books have these bubbles of say who's saying. You can do that in that story perfectly, right? Because they're going back and forth with each other, right? And it's got this cool musical vibe to it. But if you look at it, it's a graphic novel, and I'm like, if anybody listening to this is a comic book creator, Dr. Seuss is the greatest graphic novelist of all time, or at least one of them, right? I'd argue one. I would put Will Eisner and Jack Kirby ahead of him, but that's where I have him in the comic book scheme of things. And people will look at me, it's like, well, no, it's graphic literature, is what it is. And again, brilliant. Green Eggs and Ham, 50 words or less change the world, right?
Amen. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So
Mm-hmm.
so that takes a certain, like, from a literary standpoint. If there's not a reminder that a single word has power, I present the world Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss is probably the quintessential example of that.
And also the quintessential example of writing from the inner child.
Mm-hmm.
Only an inner child writer could come up with those words.
Oh yeah.
That playfulness, that goofiness, the pretend places, the pretend animals, right? So
Yeah.
he had the ability to write from the inner child.
Yeah.
That's what I love about Dr. Seuss. And that is why he is still successful today and will probably always be successful, because children will always respond to his inner child. That's a gift that he gave to
Mm-hmm.
literature.
Yeah. And he's one of my all-time favorites. He's not the only one in that category, but he's the most famous one in that category. And that's because, again, it's just that his words have power, but so does his pictures, and it's a cool combo. And it's just like, this would, like, if I were to do books today, like this, like, it's weird because I think in publishing today, I'm not sure Seuss would ever make it out of the blocks.
Isn't that interesting to think about? Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not sure he would.
Yeah,
And that's,
you've got to pursue your own path sometimes. That's what I did. I
yeah.
did hybrid self-publishing. There's no way I could have gotten traditional publishing. I mean, I just started writing in April of 2022. How am I going to? Yeah.
That means less than you think, actually. Like the fact that you started, like, I'm gonna put it to you like this. If you're conscious, I found for me, right, again, this is about two things. First, what do you want, folks? I'm gonna say this to the audience here. What do you want? You can get a tradition. Again, the book I told you about, I met the agent for it by accident. It was one of those, let's go see what happens. Now, it doesn't mean she's going to accept the book when it's all said and done. But it was just like, you know what? The opportunity is here. This goes back to my fourth rule: the rain will fall where it mays, right? So I saw the opportunity. It's like, okay, I can do that, right? And that's kind of where I'm at, where I'm going. And
I think what I'm talking about is out of the gate. If I hadn't just gone for it and done the hybrid self-publishing, I wouldn't be having a chat with you today. I just went for it.
I would go so far as to say, like, this is the only thing. I'm pushing back slightly on this. I think you might have been able to do it. right?
Really?
But yeah, why not? It's not no one. It's not, again, looking at it from a point of view of what everybody else has done is
Mm,
foolish,
mm,
right? Do you have a story that you think is worth sharing? Are you telling it in a way that only you can tell it? And is
mhm.
it something? And I truly do believe this. Is it something true to you? Like, again, the head, going back to headspace and inner child, your inner child comparison here. Does the headspace and the inner child work in concert with each other? Because if they do, then I would say you have as much a chance now as you did at anybody else. Because that's the real secret, right? That's it. That's when you and people, what does that mean? It's like you have a plan. Again, you don't necessarily have to follow through with the plan, but the idea that you have a headspace and you're smart enough to look at, okay, this is what the story's really about, right? And can I embrace that possibility? Again, headspace gets you started. It's your inner child space is telling you the real story. Are you honest with yourself? Can you own up to your feelings that you're putting onto the page? Are you comfortable in telling it the way you're comfortable with? If the answer is yes to all these questions, then again, the best traditionally published authors out there, for by and large, they are masters of that. That's their real skill. So if you got that skill, right, whether you started putting the words, technique is overrated a little
Yeah.
bit, right? Is right.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
important. I'm not going to say, again, learning how to fine tune your story, how to tell the right story is important, but it's more important that the story is out there. You can always revise a story to make it fit a certain technique later. Always. But it's the fact that you got the story down and you told it. That's the real important part. And the fact of the matter is, if you're looking at, again, if you take all the hoopla out of the equation, of, oh my God, it's a traditional deal, it's blah, 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 blah. Again, I don't have the mystique of it. I mean, don't get me wrong. Let's say it works out, great. But the mystique, I accidentally got traditionally published.
Oh, you did? That's
It was an
fabulous.
accident.
That's great.
So my initial plan was, again, this is the whole rainfall thing. My initial plan with my very first book was I wrote an epic poem about a slave boy killing dragon masters, and it was just a kind of like this epic kind of like thing. So I accidentally wrote it because I wasn't the plan initially. It just became the story. I'm going to skip that part of it for the moment because the important thing was what happened afterwards. I put it out there on Smashwords, and then somebody bought it and goes, "Hey, I really like this. What are you going to do with it?" And I'm like, "Well, my whole plan was Smashwords and print copies to sell it at conventions." Well, she went to me, well, I just made a deal with Ingram Spark. I'm starting a publishing company. I'll publish it. Like, literally, that's what happened. So, like, the
Mm.
mystique, like, I don't like. I've had awards. I've had mystique, like the prestige stuff. It doesn't sit with me the same way. A lot of other authors, it's like, it's nice, but it's not what I'm doing. Like, this is sort of like a reminder to me that I'm on the right path. Doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm the best or this or no, it's these are little reminders to myself that I'm on the right path. Doesn't mean anything else really, right? So again, I just threw it out there and shit happened. This was in 2014. So going to you, what I would tell you is, so the watcher, like if you're talking about my inner child space, it's that question of there's got to be more to life out there than just this, right, and that's such an eternal question, and like we all resonate with that question, right? No matter where you end on that spectrum, we all resonate with that question. So this is like good people, like there's more to life than this. That shit matters to me. So because it matters to me, I tell the stories the way I tell them, a certain way, and it works. And that's something that I realized. So, like, again, could I get traditionally published again? Sure. but it's because I have the headspace. It doesn't hit me like that. My headspace is it's a cool process, and I'll have fun along the journey, and hopefully I'll get better
Mm,
doing it.
yeah.
It's not it's not the end all be all. So going back to you,
Hmm.
I'm not saying that again, if you want to be hybrid indie, whatever you how you described yourself, there's nothing wrong with that. I where again, because I don't have the prestige bias in my head, right? I don't really care how you do it. In fact, if you publish, right? I don't care,
Yeah.
right? But if you care, and this is where if you care, right? Then what I would tell you is it's not about how many books you write. It's not about where you are, whether it's two on 2022, whether it's now, whether it like that means far again, going to something I said earlier, fear of success or fear of failure. Right? If you're not afraid to go out there and just put yourself out there and say, here I am awesome and made of cheese, and this is my story, and blah 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 blah, you might have something. You might, right? Right? And it doesn't matter if it's your first book to them or if it's your 2005th book to them or anything in between, right? It's being honest with yourself about what you want and following the steps to go for it. Like again, if it sounds like I'm not going to ever let my business sense get wrecked by any prestige I may get one way or the other. I'd be cool to be published by Simon and Schuster or Macmillan, or it'd be cool. I mean, I'd be lying if I said it wouldn't be, right? But it wouldn't be my end all be all either. It would just be okay. That's nice. Where are we going from here, right? Because I want to get to obnoxious red cape. That's the goal. That's the
That
goal.
has to happen. That
That has
has
to
to
happen,
happen.
right? So
I believe in it.
yeah,
Hmm. Hmm.
so if I get the obnoxious red cape, right? If I get obnoxious red cape, right? I'm just like I'm just telling you, right? That's the goal. Then the journey getting there is like everything that comes with that journey is nice and I'm going to enjoy it. But
Yes.
I'm not going to forget what I really, really want. So going to you, what do you want? And again, you don't have to tell me specifically, but I'm just like, what do you really want? If you feel like you're not ready, then you owe it to yourself to find out if you really aren't ready. And
Oh
if
no, I'm ready.
right,
I'm ready.
then then
I'm
then
ready.
then then,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
if you're ready, what the fuck are you waiting for? Just go do it. Right,
Yeah,
right,
I'm
right.
not. That's my point is I'm not waiting. That's
Yeah,
why I didn't wait. That's why I published the 31 books in 6 months,
yeah,
turned them into audio video within the same year
yeah.
of publication. And that's why I started a PR campaign a year ago, January. That's why I got, okay, so I wrote one of my books is called The Catcher Dream instead of The Dream Catcher. Talk about a villain. The
Mhm.
Catcher Dream is a villain.
Yes.
And I got invited to a gifting suite, DPA pre Golden Globe gifting suite. So in January, a year from when I started PR,
Hmm.
I was handing my books to people at the top of their game who were being nominated for the Golden Globes.
Hmm.
And do you know what's ironic? They were congratulating me on what I've
Absolutely.
done. You know, and so that was huge. So I am moving it, I'm making it happen.
That's cool.
And 2024, I just know intuitively is going to be a gigantic year for the 31 books. See, there's one for every day of the month. The longest month is 31 days.
Hmm.
So I had to choose how many books to publish because I wrote more than 31. I chose 31 because I want a child to have a book a day from me for the longest month
Ah.
as a layer of support. So my goal is to get my books in the hands of children worldwide, whether it's audio, whether it's video, whether it's physical, whether it's through the library. I'm getting picked up. The audio books are getting picked up through the Hoopla library system. Left and right, they're getting picked up. So I just want the children to have them. So whatever I have to do is what I'll do. If it's PR, if it's going to the Los Angeles Festival of Books, if it's going to a gifting suite, if it's doing podcasts, whatever it takes, I'm doing it.
So you sound like you yourself are going for your own red cape.
I already have a red cape.
I like it. Does Teddy carry it for you?
Yeah, if he's not chewing on it, he's
Okay. See, that's the humble thing, right? My dog, I am feared by all. Sir, your dog is chewing on your cape again. Really? Again? Again?
he's somewhere.
See that because it's human, right? You can see it. You can totally see it. I'm this I'm this all power. Yeah, because that's how life works, right? Because life doesn't take us seriously. Like life really doesn't, and that's the beautiful gift of life. Because here's the thing, right? We like I had this huge epiphany, and this is going to sound really terrible, but but hear me out. We all are idiots in our own way, and we all our impact by and large, no matter what we do, is actually a relatively small thing. But that tells you, like, the best part about that sounds terrible. Then you realize, hey, wait a minute, I can mess up and it doesn't matter. Sweet, right? Hey, wait a minute, I can do and pursue anything I want, and it doesn't, like, and again, this isn't, I think that stuff actually matters. But the thing is, you're in an environment where by and large it doesn't, right? There are very few people on this planet that are going to make enough of an impact that's going to affect things for generations to come. There's lots of choices on how we can do, actually, I take that back. In terms of environmental catastrophes, disasters, there's very few people with that kind of power. But in terms of the impact we can make going forward, I mean, we all have the ability to do so in any way we choose. So we can do stupid shit, and it's fine. It's okay. Life has planned for us to do stupid shit. I mean, that's just part of the process, right? Like, you know, I do believe in God. It's like, God, you had a plan for redundancy, and God's gonna be like, yes, here, yep, I do. Take a swig of something right there and then. It's like, yeah, I did, sure did, because I knew. Oh God, did I know, right? And right, and so that'll be what he says, right? It's like, I knew. But that is the beautiful thing about the world itself, is we have the freedom while we're here to do anything we choose to, and we don't have to cooperate. That's something you go, like, this takes to middle age before that fully sinks in. Wait, I can do whatever the fuck I want. This is wonderful. That once you have that in you, right, you there's nothing anyone can do to you, because now it's just like, you know what, this is I you know what, this is going to sound irresponsible for some people when I say I don't got to make this mortgage payment. Now, there's consequences to it, sure, but I actually don't have to. Do I want this? Or does this suck? Right? Now, it's a little bit more complex than that if you have kids and responsibilities, for sure. It's more complex. But in essence, it's the same thing. You're weighing, like, the life you live is a series of decisions you have chosen to make, right, to get you this far, right? No matter what circumstances you have the ability to change them, practically just about any of them. And if you have that built into you, there's not much in this life. Like, yeah, eventually you're going to die, but until then, nothing can stop you. And the beautiful thing about it is, right, by and large, the impact you're going to make, right, all right, the impact you're going to make isn't going to send shockwaves across the universe, right? So you're free to do whatever the fuck you want. So go do it and have fun, and it's okay to be stupid, right? I do stupid things all the time. It's part of life.
There are opportunities. They're all opportunities, and I learn a lot. I learn a lot from what would maybe be called a mistake.
Yeah.
I don't even know that I would call a lot of some of those things typically mistakes. They're just opportunities. That's how I see them. And I've had so many opportunities, and that's what's created my books.
I see. I don't look at mistakes as a negative thing either, but I just call them mistakes. I think sometimes if they're mistakes, like no, everything's a learning experience. But like again, when we started like off the air, folks, I apologize to Kelly right before we even started, and the reason why, because this interview was supposed to be about a week ago, and I fucked up, right? And that's just it. I fucked up. I'm not making excuses for it. I just fucked up. So that was a mistake. Now, granted scheme of things, it wasn't life altering or life correcting or any of that stuff. I mean, we had another chance to do it, and I can tell I've amused the fuck out of you this whole conversation, right? So I mean, I hope I was worth the wait. But
absolutely.
But
absolutely,
I make mistakes all the time, and I'm honest enough to acknowledge that I make mistakes all the time. Regrets, I think, are the things you have to watch out for in this life. So my goal is, I am trying to keep my regrets in my life, my regrets, less than 2 hands.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right. Less than 2 hands. Now that means I'm going to have a million mistakes. I've already accepted that some of these things weren't a bad idea or a terrible idea to do, but I did them, and I don't regret doing them because it's again, I learn. And I don't have, because the thing about a regret is you always wonder what could have been. Okay. So right now, I may not get to everything I want to do in this life, and that's something I accept. But in my head, it's just like, if I try and it doesn't happen the way I envisioned it, I can live with that. I tried. That in itself is a journey into worth keeping.
Fair.
But if I didn't try, and I was afraid to try, if I was afraid to put myself in the best position possible, there's an individual I know that's trying to get started in their art career, and I told them, like, I'd help them the moment they'd have a website. So that people, they're visual artists. I would help them, like, just right, but they're like to me, well, I don't have work. Well, it's like, you can still have a website. And they took it like me just attacking their whole approach. No, just have a website. It's much easier for me to point people to you if there's somewhere for them to go. Right? It's that simple. I don't care what your goals are. I'm not here to tell you what they look to do or not. I don't care. Find a spot where people want to go. Don't make it so harder on yourself to succeed. Life's hard enough to succeed, right? Don't put yourself in a position, like, if you recognize, hey, I need to do this, then you should do it. Because right now, again, you might not always be able to get to it right in the minute, but that's okay. You don't need to get it. Now, it's not always about right now, but it's like, okay, so my next week, I need this paperwork for this thing. Okay, I'm going to go get this paperwork by next week. Now, I may not have to, if I can do it, I can't have to do it today, but I have to do it soon. Because what eventually happens is these things that you don't do add up. And then suddenly that dream you had is gone. And you're like, I don't want if onlys. I don't want buts. I did this stupid thing and it was fun and I screwed up royally and here's my story about it, right? And you're like, okay, I get it. So, like, there's a story, there's a story, so I'm going to be speaking at a school, like a friend of mine teaching a class. I'm going to be speaking to her students. Well, she was a class, nice. Yeah, she was a classmate of mine. I wrote a short story, collection. I have a story about how I nearly killed a go-kart operator when I was 10 years old. Right. And you're laughing because you're already having this. What the fuck did he do? But
you almost ran him over, right? You gunned it or something?
No. Okay, so here, I'll give you the short version. So I was 10. First time doing the go-kart. like by myself. So I'm crashing into everything at first, not that because I've never done it before. I get the hang of it as towards the end, right? So I start getting the hang of it. I figured it out, and then for some reason in my head, I used to get out of my bicycle, right? I wouldn't hit the brakes. I would just jump off.
What?
Yeah. Just I'd slow down, I'd jump off. You can right. I'd slow down and then I'd jump off. He's just I had a friend that did it when I was in Oshawa, and I thought it was the neatest thing he did. And so I did the same thing with the bike. Now for some reason I don't fully understand, right? I had this idea to do the same thing with the go-kart. So it wasn't like full blast. It was slowing down. But you see this go-kart, just watch the car just just come at him. He does like a swan dive out of the way. Right. And it crashes right into like the tower where they're watching everything, right? And I wasn't allowed to ride the go-kart place anymore.
Oh, well, I wonder why.
Yeah. But see, you're laughing your ass off, right? This is a stupid story, right? But
you ditching this.
Yeah, no, literally, like slow, like towards the end, you cut your engines. You're supposed to hit the brakes and stop, right? I cut the engines. I did cut the engines, but I just, for whatever reason in my head, it was just like, you know what? You can just jump out like you did with your bicycle. And you know what? I did. You could, and it did work just fine. I just didn't foresee the other consequences as the
consequences.
Yeah, I didn't see it. Like it never occurred to me in that 10-year-old brain that, oh yeah, this is why you hit the brakes. Right.
It's great. You thought you had your cape on.
I did. No, I had my cape on. I was fine. The carnage I created as a result of that was that's another thing altogether, right?
Oh,
but that's the point, right? I have tons of these stories, and right. So, and I don't regret any of them. Like some of them, I look like a complete idiot. And you know what? I'm like that. This isn't even the dumbest thing I've ever done, right? But I mean, not even close. Oh no. I've done some stupid shit.
How much time do you have?
You're like, I want, but see, that's the point. See, that's the point. It doesn't matter what I've done. Like it really doesn't. The best thing about life is, by and large, I've done. So, how much stupid shit have you done? A plethora of it, right? How would you explain it to people? I was stupid. It's a really simple explanation, right? But I learn it, but I say it like that because I've done some really cool stuff as a result of doing it that way as well. It goes both ways. Yes, I have made mistakes that a lot of people never would have even dreamed of making. At the same time, I've done things a lot of people have dreamed of doing. So that
chances.
That's right. That's it. Life is most recently, I thought it was a scam, but they actually gave me an address. I was a sucker for something. I admit it, but I was genuinely curious because of how it was set up. It's like this is not something I've ever seen before. I'm curious where this is going to lead, and I was just curious, right? And it turned out to lead nowhere. But I mean, that's okay. I learned a lesson, and that's fine. But that, again, it wasn't that in the back of my head. It's like this sounds like a scheme, but this is a wrinkle I've never seen before. I'm genuinely curious where this is gonna go. You got me. I need to know what's gonna happen next, right? So, folks, if you listen to this, now you know how to sucker me. If you make me curious enough, I'm going to go find out for myself one way or the other, right? And that's
well, yeah. I've got a great opportunity for you. I was going to want to chat with you about today.
Okay.
I'm teasing.
You never know, right? You never know, right? So I'm always listen, right, for the opportunities to come. But the thing is, I take chances. You learn. You do. I'm going to look at it's like are there things you regret that you didn't do? Yes. But I want that list to be so small because regrets hurt. Like regrets, legit mistakes don't hurt, right? Mistakes you can laugh at. Mistakes you can learn from. Regrets, by and large, they stay with you, right? They stay with you. So mistakes, nah. I got a million of those. That's great. Yeah, like I said, I go to your mind. It's like, Josh, you were a fuck up. Sure was, right? Sure was. They make you proud. That's all I care about, right. So, but it just was one of those. It was like, you're gonna shake your head. You're gonna shake your head at some of the stupid things you do. It's just like he was dumb a little bit, but that's life. We all have this in us. I just would rather I would rather be that than the guy that had these opportunities, had all these things he wanted to do and never did them.
Yeah, I
Because
like
I
that.
think that's more damning.
Yeah, you're talking about participation. You're
Yeah.
talking about active participation,
Yeah.
and that's what you're talking about. And you'd rather be actively participating than gently rejecting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Exactly.
active participation. And I feel like when you involve yourself in active participation, I think it does lessen regret.
Yeah.
I do. I
Yeah.
do. I think that the passive stance, that's maybe where more regrets could arise. If yeah. So I also embrace active participation.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't necessarily I again sometimes, and by the way, folks, sometimes active participation leads to really, really cool shit. It's not just mistakes, but you can
Right,
look at
right.
both ends. But it comes with the territory, right? It comes with the territory, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
I don't deny the mistakes. I accept them, but also I love the fact that, like, again, I put the book out there. I accidentally got traditionally published. That break that
That's
right?
great.
That right,
That's
right?
great.
That's just one of those. It happened.
Accidental publication.
Yeah, exactly. I'm okay with that. Like, people think like you didn't. If someone goes, you didn't earn it. It's like, you know what? I don't care. Right? Right. If someone was to go down that line of thinking, it's like, I don't care. I got there. That's all
Oh,
that matters. Right.
well,
So
you created it, so you participate. It doesn't matter. You created it.
yeah. Well, again, a lot of people again think it has to just sometimes be a certain path. No, it doesn't. There are
No,
no
no, it
rules.
does not. It does not have to be a certain path. I am proof of that.
Yeah.
It does not have to be a certain path.
Yeah. There are no rules, and we break them. And the thing is, if once you realize that, you can do stuff, and that's what this is about, right?
Mhm.
At the end of the day, again, I go back to honesty. At the end of the day, on this run, right? Are you honest? But like, did you do everything you could? Right? Did you try everything you knew to try? And if you can honestly say yes to both of those questions, then it doesn't matter what it looks like.
Yeah, because likely it's going to be messy. What I think, at least when I was raised, messy was not okay.
Mm-hmm.
Messy was not okay, and I've had to embrace that inner child I talk about, and allow and give myself permission to
Mm-hmm.
be okay with messy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay with messy, and even saying that strikes me a little bit because it so goes against everything I was taught. But you talked about it earlier with like letting children mess up because it's so important for to learn from the
Mm-hmm.
mess, right? So it's messy, but messy isn't bad.
No,
Messy for me is growth.
it absolutely. But most of the time, it will lead to growth. Again, your generation. Because I can say this because my dad's in his approaching 70. So like your generations had a much, again, you came from a different time too. Like you came out, you were just coming out of World War II, right? You're in a very different place. Like the United States was in a much different place wealth wise then versus now, for sure. Um, there's definitely a lot more. There was definitely a lot more of like that, the golden generations thing. And again, they got to where they got to by being, because they had come from an environment where they had to be disciplined to survive.
Yes,
Right,
true.
right. So when you have that again, and that realization, like again, this is something I said, like old people have a hard time letting go of their habits, right?
Yes.
Especially if they're working. If up until like
Mhm.
if it works for you, then then you've done something. You know what I mean? Like you're not going to be so quick to change it, even though it might not necessarily be the correct way of doing it right anymore. If it works for you, you're gonna do it. It's human nature. So, like now we're in a slightly different time and place, in that we are in an age where that discipline isn't as necessary, right? Discipline's good. Actually, more discipline now today would probably be better in some spots than what we have right now. Um, but that doesn't mean that, again, it's not a perfect storm. And the reality of the situation is, again, there's no perfect scenario. That means life is always changing by its very nature. Life is messy. Now,
Yes.
that doesn't mean it has to be messy, right? As he says, he has to clean up his workspace when we're done this conversation. But it does. But again, saying it like that, you have to understand that this life, this place, this time, right? Right? It's never going to be exactly the way you imagine it's going to be, and you have to be okay with that, right? You can't let yourself be bitter to that. It's not going to be this crystal perfect whatever, it's not real, right? That's on television, and television isn't real. So, and that's something that's something that has to be understood, right? But a lot of people freak out, right? Again, a lot of people take themselves too seriously today, and I think that is something I hopefully will outgrow as we get, like, again, obnoxious red cape. I'm 50 years old, right? You're like, yes, yes, yes. See,
I
yeah,
love it.
like, yeah. If you ever see the comic book Spawn, there's a comic book called Spawn. Right.
No.
So if you look at his cape, it is the most obnoxious thing you'll ever see in your life. I'm like, it is legitimately, it's one of the coolest looking things you'll ever see. But at the same time, you're like, there's no practical way he walks in it. It's impossible, because it's so long. It's so convoluted that just the thought of, like, it looks menacing. Like, he stands perfectly still like a statue. It's like, this looks so cool, right? But see, if it was real life, but then he would take that first step, and then he would just tumble down the stairs, and he just would never. And just, right, I'm okay. I'm a Superman. Sorry about the stairs, right? And then, right, you can see, like you can tell, like,
My bad. My bad. Just a little
yeah, totally.
tumble.
No, that'd be that's the thing. So if I get one of those obnoxious red capes, like, I'm going to have to hire somebody to carry it so I can actually walk, right? Because that's the realistic. That's the most realistic way of doing it, right? Also, hockey. I don't know if you're a hockey fan, but hockey fighting Spawn, like, what someone should actually legitimately do is grab his cape and put it over his head and just start hockey punching him. It's so big and so long, right? It's so big and so long. I think I cracked you. I think I've actually cracked you a little bit with that, right? Right?
I write children's books that don't promote violence, right?
Well, maybe, but see, you're also from the Bugs Bunny era, so you know as well as I do, right. You know as
Yeah, things blew up all the time.
like, absolutely,
Wile E. Coyote. I mean, come on. Yeah, yeah.
like
It was not a safe. Yeah,
no,
not
no, no,
safe
no.
for pups.
By the way, Wile E. Coyote was the hero of that story. I realized that as I got older, right? Now, he's also the villain. Like, there's an argument for him being the villain, but there's an argument for him being the hero, because honestly, like, he's obsessed, right? That's the thing. Like, he can stop
He is
anytime.
upset.
No, he's obsessed, right? Now, the Roadrunner's like, thing is legit. The Roadrunner's a dick. Like, he's a complete dick. Come on, he outruns the guy, and the smart thing to do, like the thing to do is once he's gotten away from him, is just stay away. No, he comes back around him, goes meep meep, makes him hit his head on rocks, makes him go off a cliff, makes him do like the Roadrunner's an asshole, like legitimately, right? Like if you sit there and look at it, the Roadrunner is actually kind of going like, what are you going to do about it? Like he's like that jock athlete, like what you going to do about it? Do something, right? And that's the guy. He's like, I will do something. He comes up with the most elaborate schemes to catch the Roadrunner, and he fails miserably, but he doesn't quit. That's the heroic aspect. No. Also, legitimately, the toughest guy on television I've ever seen. Like seriously, after all the abuse he takes, and he's still coming back for more. I would like legit. I'd run from that guy. Like what could I do to him? Like how do you make that guy stop? I don't know. Right. Like seriously, like that's like he's the toughest. Like he's not only he's tough, he's resilient. He just has his company he chooses is just terrible. Like I said, it's one of those like, but that's the thing, right? You look back to that era, like again, you can make an argument that the Coyote's the hero of the story and the Roadrunner's the dick, right? You can make that argument.
See your argument. I can see it. Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Right. You can go the other way. Like it's very also you can go the other way too. It's like it's not a one-sided argument, but it's one of those things where you look at it and go, huh. But I mean, I can see this both ways. Now, grant you, in the Roadrunner's defense, if a dude was trying to eat me, I wouldn't necessarily be nice to him either, right? But
right. I mean,
I'm petty.
You don't want to be stew. You don't want to be stew.
No, exactly. I get that aspect of it too. Like I totally get that aspect of it too. But he literally goes out of his way to be a dick. Like he does. Like he literally goes out of his way to do it. Like he doesn't have to. Like rubbing in a little bit, I get it. But rubbing in a lot. So
out of his way.
Yeah, it does. He sneaks up behind him, goes me. He goes out of his way to do it. So that's the thing. Like so you know this about him, and it's just like, okay. You're fast and you're impressive, but you are a bit of a dick. I kind of want to see him catch you just once, right? Yeah, right. So, that's the whole thing, right? Yes. And the one time he actually catches them is when they go through the pipe and he comes out the other side. The Roadrunner's still big and the Coyote's still small. The Coyote did catch him. But the Roadrunner's not like this to his, and he looks and he goes to the audience at that point. Okay, you wanted me to catch him for years. Now what do I do with him? Right? Right. So I mean, now what? Right? So that it like I said, I think see that was the genius of the era of cartoons in your era. So I say all that to say, like, I think. Two things. I don't think we should be shy with children about the darkness in the world. Now, how we tell it might be a little bit different, right? How we tell it might be different, but we can't be shy about it. We can't say there is such a thing, I think, as sanitizing an environment in a way that isn't real, and sure. I don't think like that's. Kids are smart enough. I think we underestimate kids in this sense. Kids are smart enough to get a sense of what's going on, right? Without like
absolutely,
they're very perceptive. I speak of my own experience as a kid. Right now, that doesn't mean they have everything figured out or nailed down or any of that stuff. No. But what it does say is, right, we don't do them any favors by we have to teach them how to perceive nasty things sometimes. Right. And understand why those things are nasty. Right. Because here's what happens. If we don't do that, then we have a whole bunch of adults going, hey, this is right or this is wrong. And then you go, well, why is this right or why is this wrong? And they're like, I don't know. but it's wrong. And right, and I have seen grown ass adults do this. I literally
Mhm.
have, right? And I'm
Yeah.
like, I wouldn't. And then they're like, well, why won't you listen to me? It's because you have no idea what you're talking about. And the reason I know you have no idea what you're talking about is I'm asking you why, and you can't answer my question. I'm just asking a question, right? I'm not trying to be like, I'm not trying to be contrary and for the sake of being well, okay, I'm lying a little bit there, right, a little bit, but I mean, I'm legit want to know where you stand, and if you can't tell me where you stand, well, that's a problem because then I question how you think and perceive the world.
Mhm.
Right? I do. At that point, I start having some serious questions about your ability to perceive things and solve things. Because
True.
if you can't see it, you can't solve it. So that's how I look at it. So when I look at like we're doing stuff for kids, I don't necessarily want them to fully grasp the ideas of, um, say, rape. I don't want that, right? I don't want that at all. But I would be like, okay, this is how you approach a stranger, at least initially, right? Right. Teaching them how to trust and discern good people from bad people. Right.
That's what the Catch Your Dream does.
Yeah.
The Catch Your Dream is about how does the protagonist feel
Yep.
in their own system, and the child is being taught to assess what it feels like if they feel uncomfortable, to draw a boundary. So
Yep.
you don't say, that's how I want to teach about a child being able to survive in the world in a safe way, is for them to understand what it feels like when they need to create a boundary. Now, they won't understand that language, so
No.
that's not what I say. That's for the caregiver. But
Yep.
that's what the Catch Your Dream does. What you need to do is you need to create a feeling that the child can feel, so that they can recall it, and then they can recall what they learned, what the message was, how to say, get out of my space. Basically, the Catch Your Dream, the whole message is, who do you think you are? Entry into my space, you must earn.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get to just walk up into this, right?
Yep.
So that's a perfect example of just one of my 31 books. It's
Yeah.
how do you teach a child how to make a boundary without scaring them
Yep.
about the world? You create a feeling and you let them develop what that feeling is. Does that
Yep.
make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's that's called following the intuition.
Yes. Yes. And trusting that. And the
Yes.
child needs to learn to trust their intuition and say, this doesn't feel quite right. I need to speak up. So that's what I do. That's what I do in my stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yes, the freaking cape is all over the place, right? And you can see me hockey fighting Spawn totally, right? But
Bring it
anyways,
on.
yeah, that's
Bring it on.
right. So real quick, are you? You sounds like at least you have some experience in sports. Are you so? Are you a big reader? Are you big into sports? Are you big into like doing like discipline stuff? Are you secretly a kung fu master and we're not aware of it? Right? Hey, listen. I tend
Now,
to think great artists have great disciplines and other things. So
I'm not a kung fu master, but I'm a Jedi.
you are a Jedi. You move things
Yeah.
with your mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, I mean, I'm a Jedi as far as intuition goes.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And most of my life, I've just done a lot of physical work. We had properties, and we did a ton of upfitting, and I manually did the work. So, including landscape, pine straw, trenching beds,
So, so,
caulking.
so,
Physical. I've done
oh,
physical
no,
work.
no, yeah, landscaping. No, total respect. I get you. So in your case, you might be able to lift me over your head and spin me. Gotcha.
Yeah, now I'm getting more into my Jedi mindset. Back then I was more in the training phases.
No, no,
So
it's
I
it's
had to, wax on, wax off kind of thing, right? I was doing the physical stuff. Now I'm going into the creative space
yeah,
because I had to go through all that to get to where I am today.
yeah.
And it paid off, and it taught me so much, the work I did. And now, I describe my story similar to Field of Dreams, the movie Field of Dreams, because, are you familiar with the movie?
Yes.
Okay. So Kevin Costner is hearing voices, right? And he's being told to do things that would not look normal to anybody else. In fact, they've staged an intervention, right, in Iowa. They're like, your husband's a nut job. He's plowing his fields to make a baseball field, right? So what does he do, though? He trusts the intuitive hits. Now, back when they made the movie, I don't even know if they would have called them intuitive hits, but that's exactly what it
Oh,
is,
sure.
right? So he gets the hit, and he's lucky enough to have the support where the wife comes around, correct? She has the dream, and she said, I had a dream that you're sitting in the baseball field with Terrence Mann. So he did have somebody in his corner, but he
Well,
pursued each hit as he went, right? He pursued,
well,
and sometimes it looked like it wasn't going to pay off, right? He remember when they go to the town to find the doctor, and the doctor is dead, he's passed, and they're like, maybe we didn't need to come here. Well, then they meet the doctor on the road back to Iowa.
yeah.
Remember, the young guy. So that's me. I've just followed the hits each time, and I've trusted them, and I've had faith in them.
Mhm.
And what I say now is I've already plowed the field, I've built the stadium, and right now the cars are starting to line up with their headlights on.
Yeah, no, it's see, another version of the story of Field of Dreams is Noah's Ark. Noah's Ark. Could you imagine that? Someone just building a ship that big? Yeah. Like, you would look at that and go, "What the fuck is he doing?" Right, right. I mean, seriously, you would, and you would. I mean, it's a normal reaction. And then someone goes to you today, "Well, God told me to build the boat." Right? You'd have so many doctors with crazy pills going, giving this, here, you take these, you'll hear nothing, we promise. Stop doing, right? But the thing is, intuition is much like reason is a tool. It's not the only, right? It's a tool. Now, I'm not gonna. Now, I would say that 90% of the time your intuition's right. Your gut is right. It works out, right? Right. So, but it's learning to trust yourself, and that's something
Yes.
very okay, so right this very minute I've been turning my creativity into a living. I've been working very hard to do that. Last year
Excellent.
I was very, 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 very close to hitting a living wage. This year I am confident I'm going to do it, but I'm right this very minute, I'm not sure how that's going to work out, what that's going to look like yet, right? So, and like I said, but I think this is the year I fully break through, and I don't have to, like, because again, part of it is I'm just tired of doing the other stuff. But the other part of it is I got other things I want to do, and they require a certain degree of freedom to do it. And so I'm going to pursue this, like, and again, I don't know what it looks like entirely at the other end.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
That's my whole point.
Yeah.
I wrote these books, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to publish 31 books. I mean, come on, that could sound to anyone like I've lost my marbles, right? But
Sure.
I hadn't, and I did it. And anybody can. Now, I did my due diligence, right? I did my due diligence, but I also followed my gut and my heart and my soul. So it's a combination of the two. And I think what you're saying is you're going to just embrace that side, and you're still going to do your due diligence, but you're going to let that creative space and that heart space really rise to the surface, and that's going to steal the show, because there's a reason it's coming up for you, and you're meant to embrace it. You're meant to embrace it.
It's, I'm ready for it. Like I think, so the last thing, and then we'll wrap this interview up.
Okay.
We'll wrap this interview up, because I think you and I could probably talk for a long time if we wanted to.
Yes, we could.
But the big thing I've learned in life is, like, there's, like, you have to be, if you got something coming your way, you're either ready for it or you're ready to learn something from it, one or the other, right? So there was a time when this whole process scared me. There was a time. Now again, you can hear me and how I sound. I'm excited about the prestigious stuff, but I'm not driven by the prestigious stuff. This is about something else for me, right? And that's what this is about. Now, I have faith in myself. And when I was starting to freelance, I started to freelance in 2020. And the first year I screwed up. And my screw up was I was worried about messing it up. And that was a mistake.
Mm,
That was a
mm,
mistake because that's not how you do this. You do this now. You do this whole journey not by worrying about the mistakes you make. You do it by believing it's going to work out. The moment I changed that mindset, I started making more money. Now I'm not all the way where I'd like to be, and I do feel like there, like again, honest thing. There's like It's like I'm waiting for like and I've been feeling like this for a while. That last piece to fall, but when it falls, and I know it will fall, I'm good. And I'll be like, where did you say you were? Los Angeles, right?
yeah, I was in Los Angeles for the DPA gifting suite, but I live in South Carolina. I live outside of Charlotte.
Okay, you live outside of Charlotte. Okay, cool. So I'll be taking my like what I want to do is I want to take my show legitimately on the road and meet all the people I've interviewed. Like that's the next goal. Now I'm a long way from it. Like right this minute, it's like it seems far away, but I'm also like okay, but I'm also like this year I'm determined I'm going to be out there. I've decided like nope, I'm going to do it this year. I don't care what it looks like, even if it's just me hitchhiking on the road and start. I don't care, right? Because if I don't do this now, I'm not going to do it. And and the only way I don't want to do it is if there's something better for me. So one thing is so it's one of two things. That something better is going to come for me before a certain date, or I'm out, right? Because it's just like because it's like I gotta make a decision, and
Okay, fair.
right, like that's just in my head. It's like because I'm 42. I'd rather make a mistake than have a regret, right? That's how I look at it. So if I don't do this, it's a regret,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. It's time.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
So
time.
that's where I'm at. Miss Kelly, Miss Kelly. I think we've had a wonderful conversation today. I've made you laugh a few times, right? Right.
It made me laugh a lot.
Yeah. It was the hockey fighting thing. I know. It's totally the hockey fighting thing or the go-kart thing. One of the two.
The go-kart. The go-kart. Yeah, the go-kart.
Yeah, the go-kart's like, yeah, go-kart broke me. I'm not going to lie. It did. Yes. So that all said, folks, I think we have a new here. So Kelly, you've got 31 books. So for the purposes of, this is the part of the show where you promote something. So let's keep it simple because you got 31 books. Let's pick one and where people can find you.
Oh, yes. Okay, so just Google me, honest to goodness, just Google Kelly Anne Manuel. And I have a YouTube channel where I read some of the books to the children. And I'd love for people to check that out and really subscribe. That would be huge for me. And I'm promoting 4 new books this year, and so I'm just putting those into video for YouTube. So golly, I think one of the books I'm focusing on this year is called The Inclusive All,
Yep.
and it's a play on all inclusive resort, right?
Yep.
The Inclusive All is dedicated to the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr.
Ah.
And it's a nursery rhyme about a very decent place where everything nicely, organically interacts. And check out the Inclusive All if you want to have that feeling and you want to give that child an imaginary space that they can go to where everybody's included.
Yeah. All right. And folks, that is it for this week's streams. I'm going to be back next week. I got apparently a plethora of guests. In the conversation I just had confirmations from a bunch of people. So we're going to have some cool interviews next week. But I unfortunately have a day job or at least a side gig this week to worry on and get caught up in some other things. But hopefully, it looks like we're going to be more back to a normal schedule starting next week into the new year ish. So for everybody watching, everybody listening, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Stay inspired. Keep shining in the dark. And I'll see you guys next time.